you so much for including me today. I work in the Gender and Diversity Division, and the first thing that I'd like to do is thank and congratulate the Fiscal Management Division, and particularly Leslie Harper, for putting this event today. I think it's incredibly timely. Over the past few months, social and economic inequalities and the harms that they cause have been at the forefront of all of our minds. It's been impossible not to really be focusing on clear disadvantages of different populations during the COVID crisis, during the protests of the United States. They've reminded us in no uncertain terms that there are vast differences in opportunities and treatment in our societies. So I was asked to talk about why is it important to look at the inclusion of LGBTQ populations in the work that we do at the bank. And I think that Carola already did such an amazing job of explaining how important it is that I'm really going to reduce my comments and not repeat what she said. She already mentioned that we have our first diversity action plan that was approved in 2019 that really is bolstering our commitments to find ways to proactively include many different population groups. The most recent group that we've started focusing on are LGBTQ populations. Honestly, of all the diverse groups in the Diversity Action Plan, those that are prioritized, we know the least, and we have the least experience as an institution and a region with LGBTQ persons and the challenges that they face. That doesn't mean that we don't have studies that tell us specific things about economic opportunities. Carola already cited some information related to inequalities and economic opportunities. I'm just going to cite two more from specific studies in the region. About 60% of the LGBTQ workers in Costa Rica have reported having to hide their sexual orientation in the workplace for fear of discrimination and harassment or even being fired. In Mexico, labor market inclusion and diversity survey showed that 85% of victims of homophobic harassment never mention it to anyone. And those who do report incidents to authorities, they find that only in half the cases that no action is taken at all. So we know even less about LGBTQ entrepreneurs in our region. This is an area where we need to do a lot of work, as Carola was saying, to make them visible. But what we do know points to the fact that they face significant challenges from the moment that they start their businesses with regards to having more difficult times getting loans, getting hired, or growing their businesses. So as has also been mentioned, the US and LAC have established programs to increase opportunities for diverse businesses owned by different population groups or women, and having even certain portions of publicly funded projects and contracts that need to go to what they call minority-owned businesses. But LGBTQ businesses have not been consistently included in these programs. And given the stigmas and discrimination that are persistent in the countries across the region, it's frequently too risky to self-identify and therefore a little harder to know how we're progressing. So I'm really looking forward today to hearing from our guests on how they've been overcoming some of these challenges and being able to really actively promote LGBT inclusion. Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be part of this event today. So I'd like to pass on to our colleague, Leslie Harper, for her comments.
Great, thank you, Anne-Marie. So my name is Leslie Harper. I'm a senior specialist at the IDB's Fiscal Management Division. So my colleague Anne-Marie has greatly illustrated the importance of the LGBT community in Latin America and the Caribbean. And now I'd like to talk about why promoting the participation of LGBT businesses in the public procurement market could play an important role in improving how governments contract goods and services in the region. Although there's an accepted notion that companies have, for the most part, fair and unrestricted access to participate in government procurement market, in reality, many factors such as asymmetries of information, lack of outreach and training, outdated procurement business models, ineffective sizing of contracts, and the lack of proper market studies have caused low participation and underrepresentation of several business communities in the pool of government suppliers. The public procurement market represents an important source of opportunities for economic mobilization, risk diversification, and business development for the private sector, as it represents around 30% of the region's GDP. However, not all businesses have the same degree of access to these opportunities. We have evidence and underrepresentation of companies led or owned by women, Afro-descendants, Indigenous peoples, immigrants, and in case of this event, the LGBT community. Not taking actions to enable the LGBT community to be an active business partner of the region's governments not only limits opportunities to further diversity and inclusiveness in the public sector, but it's also bad business. Over the past few years, here at the IDB, we have been successful at supporting efforts to promote inclusion and participation of women-owned enterprises in government contracts. We have seen the incredible effects such programs can have in a business community and the procurement market as a whole. Just to name a couple examples, in Chile, the Central Procurement Entity successfully implemented a certification program to promote women's participation as government suppliers, resulting in an increase in the number of women-owned enterprises providing goods and services to the Chilean government by 25%. In the Dominican Republic, the General Contracting Authority identified and trained women entrepreneurs with potential to provide goods and services to the government, resulting in an increase of contract awards to women-owned firms from 2,100 in 2013 to 16,000 in 2016. As the evidence shows, including a perspective of diversity inclusion into government procurement opens the doors to a new array of suppliers that are now competing and thriving in the public procurement market. And the benefits go both ways, as an investment made in outreaching and building capacity in these non-traditional business sectors is recovered by the expansion in the pool of suppliers that compete for government contracts and the associated value for money for the taxpayers, reflected in lower prices and higher quality goods and services. We believe that the LGBT business community in Latin America can also bring value to the public procurement market and access the opportunities and benefits related to it. As it is part of our institutional mandate, it is important for us to engage with key stakeholders and organizations and start the dialogue of diversity and inclusiveness in public expenditure, and to identify the policy actions and capacity building necessary to move this initiative forward, as well as the main strategies that will enable us to succeed in the short term. In our search for innovative solutions, we have liaised with the U.S. National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, as they have pioneered a certification program for LGBT businesses that has been key in promoting inclusive public procurement at different levels of local and state governments in the U.S. So we're very happy to have them here today, so our stakeholders in the region can learn the characteristics of such an ambitious program. Worth mentioning, we're also very pleased to have representatives from the Public Services Commission of the state of Maryland, one of NGLCC's partner in this effort, to give us their perspective on the value of such a program. Furthermore, it is worth highlighting that actors in the region have not been idle in addressing this challenge. Two LGBT chambers of commerce that are leading efforts in the region are also present here today, and we're honored to be able to hear their experiences in this topic. Finally, I want to stress that leveling the playing field for LGBT businesses is more important than ever, given the ongoing COVID pandemic. In Latin America, LGBT individuals are more likely than the general population to live in poverty and lack access to adequate medical care, paid medical leave, and basic necessities. As LGBT businesses are an increasing segment of small businesses, actions that promote their growth can be critical to achieve greater equality in the economic reactivation efforts underway. With this brief introduction, I want to give the word to my colleague, Ariel Salzman, who will moderate the session of today's webinar. Thank you all for joining us, and Ariel, over to you.